Request video. This one's from Love and Lightland. Can you share your knowledge about Lapland and the different ethnic groups? There has been some recent genetic testing to discover more about them. What is the current consensus about the Sami people? Thanks. Okay, I was in Norway the summer of 2010. I rode my bike up Finland and then across the northern part of Norway. Then I had to meet my brother in Trondheim in 3 days. So I had to take the bus down really quick because my knees blew out on me. And I couldn't ride that much anymore. And I wanted to check out the northern part. So I took the bus over the northern part and it's beautiful. But yeah, there's Sami people. You have Sami villages up there. So my knowledge about Lapland and the different ethnic groups. Well, the only ethnic group I know about Lapland are the Sami. They're the original people, and now for some reason I thought they were like Eskimos, like they were Chinese-looking people. But the pictures of the Sami people I saw up there, they were not like Oriental. They were just like white people. There was one Sami guy up there. I think he had like dark hair, so maybe they have dark hair or whatever. But he basically looked white. Their accent's a little bit different. It's a different. It was a totally different group of people, ethnic people, than say the Scandinavian, like the Vikings, the Vikings and the Scandinavians who came down and did all the raids against Europe in the 800s, and then created the ancient kingdoms of Scandinavia 1,000 years ago. That's a different ethnic group from the Sami. Those kingdoms only inhabited like the southern half of Norway, of those Scandinavian countries, up until maybe just below the Arctic Circle, where people actually had summers and could grow stuff. But up beyond that, it was more wilderness, and that's the Sami people. The Sami people. So then, in the last couple hundred years, when we had the industrialization and people the culture, civilization could grow way up to all the way to the northern tips of those countries of Norway. They encroached on the Sami territory, and then so now the Sami, they get money. Like the English people, in America, the Native Americans get, I don't know how much money they get, like $500 every 2 weeks or something like that. And the Australian Aborigines get money, and the natives of Canada get money so they can drive around those big pickups and stuff. Same thing with the Sami in Norway. And I know of Norway and probably Finland and Sweden as well. They get money from the government because they're like the original inhabitants and stuff. And it's kind of bizarre to think that they would, because they look just like everybody else. They're just white people. So I think they were just maybe a little bit ethnically different, but they're just white people. But they do live in tents. So they were, primitive. They had just had little tribal groups living in tents and fishing and that kind of stuff, and not having like big cities and towns and all that. Now the recent genetic, and I know that Norwegians don't like that. A lot of Norwegians don't like that Sami get extra money. They don't think it's fair. They think they're just Norwegians. And as far as the Sami are concerned, they're just Norwegians. They grew up in the same environment. They speak the same language. Maybe their accent's a little bit different in the north, but they're just Norwegians, only they're the ones who happen to get money from the government because they're the descendants of the people who were originally up north, even though the Norwegians who were in the far south were originally descendants of the people who had always lived there in the southern part of Norway. So that dole money for the Sami probably isn't going to last very much longer. I wouldn't be for it. But anyways, there has been some recent genetic testing to discover more about them. I'd love to know about that genetic testing to make a map of migrations of all the different ethnic groups and who's related to who and all that kind of stuff. Another way to study which ethnic groups are related is language. Like the Hungarian language is similar to the Finnish language, who were both what do they call it? Ugric language group. They come from the central Russia, because Hungary. The Hungarians the Huns came and started Hungary, and then and then the Magyars came and they moved into Hungary because they identified with the Huns, and so the Magyars came from that area as well, and so that's why Hungarian is different. And I think the same thing with Finland. They all kind of managed to migrate over there. So yeah, So genetic and language. Language is just a low technology way to find out what the genetic makeup of people is. Because once you mix races enough, the physical characteristics kind of change, like kind of become more homogenous, and you can't really tell. Like if you go to Hungary, they're just white, you know. Like a regular person couldn't tell the difference between a Serb and a Croat, even though if you ask them, oh, we are totally different, So, anyways, so yeah, what is the current consensus about the Sami people? Yeah, I think the current consensus is that they don't deserve that money and they shouldn't get it. But Norway has so much extra money these days that I guess they can. But they're really friendly, man. I mean, I was up there in one of those northern towns. I can't remember the name of it. And it's some hotel. And the kid, he was a Sami kid. He was working the desk there. He was calling around for me to all the different bus stations because I was thinking about taking the bus down because I had to get down really quickly. And he was doing research for me just because he was being nice. And so, yeah, nice people. So that's they don't look like the Eskimos though, like in northern Alaska. But that makes sense because the Bering Strait was all land for 14,000 years ago, and that's how I guess a lot of the Native Americans migrated, and so they look migrated from like Eurasia, and so they look Chinese. So that makes sense. The Sami are in the European part, so they would look white. So that's all.